a large number of alumni across geographies, in various cities in this country, in various countries, is that those who maintain the connections by, nowadays, of course, you have all the electronic means, but also by meeting often, you have to form special interest groups that continue to nurture the shared interests that you had in when you were in the institute. If you maintain these relationships, there's a lot to be gained. You find that whenever you need some help, whenever you need to figure out something, whether it's in your professional life or in your personal life, you find that it's very beneficial and very satisfying to reach out to an alumnus. And the only reason is, the alumnus has understands a lot of things about where you're coming from, what your assumptions are, instinctively, simply because there's just so much of a shared experience. So you don't have to explain too many things to the person when you discuss whatever you're discussing, pose whatever problem you're posing. Usually you'll get some suggestions for you to take or leave, but without having to go too much into the background, because he or she knows what are the set of assumptions under which you're operating, where you're coming from. You've shared 4 or 5 years together, at the most formative years of your life. So that is the really important reason for maintaining your links with your batch, with your hostel mates, with your department mates, with others with whom you did things here together, played some sport together, did some music together, whatever, or debating team, whatever it is. I think that's very important. And whenever I found people who particularly had shared interests, who were on debating teams or sporting teams together, I find that when they maintain their links, it's really very, both emotionally very satisfying and also actually very useful. The other thing is that, the trend these days is there's a lot of interest and a lot of desire in alumni to start ventures of their own, to be lord and masters of their own destiny, and there's a burning desire to succeed and do something and significant, and do something for the country in this along the way. And in that also you need all the help you can get, especially it's a first generation entrepreneur, haven't really had any experience doing it before. You need all the help you can get, and once again, it really pays to reach out to alumni of your own institute and other IITs, because again, they understand instinctively all the plus points that you share with them, and also they instinctively know where the weaknesses are. So please, use this opportunity, use this as your first kickoff day for starting to think like an alumnus. A lot of things that you assumed that, because you're living together and every hour of your life now, a lot of the things you assume come for free. They just happen to be available to you. It'll suddenly disappear when you leave. So if you want to maintain that, you have to use the alumni network, get yourself onto all the electronic connections, but also make sure you attend the chapter meetings in your town or city, wherever you are. And nowadays people travel so much. Whenever you swing by Chennai, make it a point to halt here. We find that alumni are very happy to visit the institute periodically, stay in the guest house, visit the departments, take a walk, go to their hostel. And nowadays, many of them are very happy to address the students in our leadership lecture series and share their experiences with them, even if it's just 5 years of experience. Share it with the students. The students are also very keen. Most of those lectures are full. And if you're doing startups and so on, you can engage back with the institute, with faculty, with younger students. And really, this is a connection that's vastly superior to any Rotary, any Lions Club, or anything, or any connections that you make at a golf course. You maintain these and you will be really rewarded all your life. So all the best, and I'll of course have more opportunities. We are going to have our institute's graduation dinner, then we'll have the convocation. So I'll be meeting many of you very often. This is the very first kickoff meeting as you start taking your steps out of the campus. All the best in your careers. And remember, since this is a meeting of the convened by the Alumni Association, remember, make sure you have your ID there, make sure you're on the lists, make sure you're connected, make sure you come here as often as you can, and retain all the connections that you've made with your institute mates in these 4 years. Make sure you retain them and nurture them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure and a privilege for me to introduce Mr. Gopal Krishna Gandhi here, or many of you know him. Mr. Gopal Krishna Gandhi was the governor of West Bengal, serving from 2004 to 2009, and he's a grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, and his maternal grandfather was Rajaji. I mean, what more? As a former member of the Indian Administrative Service, he served as Secretary to the President of India and as High Commissioner to South Africa and Sri Lanka, among other administrative and diplomatic posts that he held. Mr. Gandhi graduated with a master's degree in literature from St. Stephen's College of Delhi University. He has authored novels, plays in verse, and also translated many literary works. He started his career in 1968 as an IAS officer in Tamil Nadu, and in 1985 became the Secretary to Vice President of India, and in 2 years, the Joint Secretary to President of India. Mr. Gandhi was the High Commissioner of India in South Africa and Lesotho in 1996, and in Sri Lanka in 2000. He was also the Ambassador of India to Norway and Iceland for 2 years, till he was appointed the Governor of West Bengal. He has also served as the Governor of Bihar, additional charge from 2006. It's a real pleasure and privilege, sir, to have you among us. May I now request our Director to felicitate the Chief Guest. Yes, yeah, I'll now request the Chief Guest to address the students.
Esteemed Director, Professor Bhaskar Ramamurthy, senior faculty on the dais and in the amphitheater, friends, it is a great pleasure for me to be in the IIT Madras campus once again, and particularly in this open-air amphitheater. I am reminded of the convocation that was held here in either 1964 or 1965, as the director just reminded me, when I had come to attend the convocation, which was on that particular year addressed by Rajaji. It was a wonderful experience to have attended that convocation, and it is a wonderful experience to be here again this evening after a span of almost half a century. Now, I can see, as all of you can see, that there are very few alumni to be present here at this moment, but they will all be here a little later when the atmosphere is different, when the spirit of this evening has changed from the formal part of it, which is where we are now, to the informal celebration of the coming to a close of the association that is formed for life by all those who enter the IIT Madras. I would like to start by congratulating IIT Madras on its extremely well-deserved #1 position in the country. The IIT Madras is today deservedly a landmark of the city, but is also one of the signatures of the city. And if in the past, in the decades gone by, people used to visit Madras, as it was then called, to see Mahabalipuram on the outskirts, the Theosophical Society gardens, grounds, the Adyar in South Madras, and the bustling jewelry market in T Nagar. Today they come for those as well, but they also come to admire and appreciate from the outside, if not from a tour within, institutions like, and starting with the IIT Madras, the Cancer Institute in Adyar, and institutions beyond, which have done so much for people in those disciplines, such as the Shankara Netralaya and, of course, the great Apollo Hospital of Madras. I would like to say that times change and thoughts change with times, and priorities and perspectives change as well. Perhaps in 1957-58, the awareness of things like threats to the environment, the physical environment, the natural environment, and issues like climate change were not uppermost in people's minds. And so it is perfectly possible that had the IIT Madras not been set up on these grounds in 1959, but was being contemplated today, they would have selected a site other than a thickly wooded forest in the heart of the city. Similarly with the Cancer Institute, the Cancer Hospital in Adyar. It is in a way ironic that the lung of the city should be scooped out to make space for an institution that is so specifically concerned with issues of health pertaining to cancer and the lungs. But then the Cancer Society is not at fault for that. At that time, when it came up, perspectives were different. Today, perspectives are something else. And so we have to be conscious of the fact that we are living in times when priorities change, and when what was taken as axiomatic and correct in a particular era could very well be seen in a different light in a later era. We cannot be sure what 25, 30, 40 years from now the priorities of our country, of our city would be. And what we are now seeing as normal and natural and proper may be seen in a completely different light then. So really the answer is to be aware of change and to be consciously and constantly self-critical and open to self-correction, and also to correction from other quarters. I do not wish to take any length of time today beyond a few moments to share a couple of thoughts with such alumni who may be present, alumni to be who may be present, and others who may pass on the message to them. I don't think the value of life on a campus, shared living on a campus, could have been better expressed than has been done by Professor Bhaskar Ramamurthy. What he has said in terms of the value of that life, in terms of shared experiences, and in terms also of the sharing of the diversities of India, what he has said is quite remarkably correct, exactly right. And what is required of alumni once they move in terms of living an afterlife of the campus, beyond the campus, is also extremely important. But I just have this thought to add and complement what he has just said. And that is this, that you are all alumni to be and alumni. You are all bound to reach the farthest horizons of possibility. You're bound to saturate your individual uniquenesses in wherever you are, especially in the fields that you have mastered in an institution like the IIT Madras. But quite apart from becoming an expert in the field that you have chosen, in the field that you have come to specialize in through the extraordinary opportunities provided by an institution like the IIT Madras, and through your teachers who are themselves masters and experts in the field. Beyond that, there is something called a passion which is distinct from, may be connected to and connected with and related to and related with, but need not necessarily be so, what you have studied and what you have learned and what you have specialized in. That passion has to really mark a person. And this is not said only to somebody who's been in the IIT Madras or in an IIT, but to any student, that what lies ahead is a combination of both free will and chance. Your free will has led you to select some courses. Your chance has led you to operate some talents. But there is something beyond free will and chance, which is just sheer unpredictable openings, which will come from being aware of your environment, of what is happening around the world. And that is where you might find your passion. It is a passion which borders on eccentricity. It is something which borders and nudges idiosyncrasy. And you may get to be known as somebody who is remarkably good at X, Y, and Z, but brilliant in something else, like a Carnatic musician. Maybe absolutely flawless in every aspect and department of Carnatic music, but she or he may be a master of the Neraval. Like that, there has to be a passion. In the alapane of a musician, there has to be a glimmer of passion, which has nothing to do with training and discipline and learning. And there, I have a couple of suggestions to make, and then I will take your leave. One is that apart from the obvious requirements of our times in our country, there are a couple of things that are happening which really require in a kind of inspirational lead from alumni of IITs and our scientific institutions. One is described like this. All of you may know or feel what I feel and know, that the earth is behaving in a fashion which is rather different from what it was some centuries ago. This may be just an impression, may not be borne out by critical study of data, but the occurrence of natural disasters, particularly seismic disasters, is becoming frequent in terms of proximity of episode and episode. And what is happening today is Kathmandu and Peshawar have both seen the worst possible earthquakes. Now, earthquakes can't be prevented. They can not even perhaps be anticipated, though there are methodologies now in which we can sense a major temblor coming if there has been a recording of minor seismic irritations, as in a stroke. But prevention and anticipation apart, there are certain things which need to be done, like the decongestion of cities and agglomerations where earthquakes are scheduled to occur, not just likely, but scheduled to occur. We have a zonation, 1, 2, 3, 4. In zonation 4, we have nuclear plants. Is there not something which should be done from a seismological point of view about relocating those? Here we go beyond technology to planning for the future, with ethics at the heart of that planning. And this is where I think alumni will and must play a part. The second is another dimension where nobody could really have had any future anticipation. I'm not going to speak on climate change or global warming because you know it much, much better than I do. But I want to just dwell on the possibility of a city like Madras imploding under a heavy downpour of rain, in which the rain or nature is the author, but the aftermath of the rain is authored by something else, namely ourselves. Rain was the author, but mismanagement was the copyright holder of the floods of Chennai. Why should such a thing happen in a city